Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Torigno again, and this is page 5 of the second review packet for the Algebra 1B semester exam. This will start with problem number 29 and go down through the end of the page, which is problem number 34. Okay, 29. We did lots of problems like these ones. An 8 by 10 photograph is being surrounded by a frame W inches wide. Write an expression for the total area of the photograph and the frame. Well, it really helps you to draw a picture here. So I'm going to start by drawing my photograph. Okay, and I'm going to say this is 8 by 10, and that just came right from the problem. This is an 8 by 10 photograph. And then I'm going to put a frame around the outside. And that frame is W inches wide, so that means all the way around is W inches. Okay, hopefully this will give you sort of a visual idea of what's going on here. I want an expression for the total area of the entire rectangle. And remember that this the area of a rectangle is length times width. So if I wanted the area of this rectangle, I would take this entire length and multiply it by this entire width. Okay? So we need to think about how long this side is. I know that from here to here is 10 inches. Okay? And that I got just from up here. That's how big this piece of the photograph is. But then I have these little corners. Okay? Think about how long each of those is. Hopefully you came up with that each of them would be W. I know I'm squeezing it in there, but you'll be able to see it better when I do it over there on the side. So the length of this entire thing is W plus 10 plus another W, or I could say 10 plus 2W. Maybe I'll just write that up on the top. 10 plus 2W. And that's really the length of the top and the bottom. Again, because you have 10 inches from here to here, and then a W and a W. Same thing along the side. You've got 8 inches from here to here. So from here to here is 8 inches. And then you know you have a W here and a W here. So this whole length would be 8 plus 2W. Okay. Again, to find area, I want to take these two expressions and multiply them together. So here's how I would set that up. 10 plus 2W and 8 plus 2W. And then all I need to do is multiply. Now when I go to multiply these, I'm going to have to use FOIL again, which we just talked about, I think, on the previous page. FOIL is first, outside, inside, last. So here, first, 10 times 8 would be 80. Outside would be 10 times 2W, which is 20W. Inside would be 2W times 8, which is 16W. And last is 2W times 2W. Now 2 times 2 is 4, and W times W is W squared. So this would be 4W squared at the end. Okay. Now I'm going to combine these terms here in the middle. And when I go to rewrite this, I'm going to start with this 4W squared. It's technically not wrong if you were to write it the other way, if you were to still start with the 80. But generally in math, we try to start with the exponent terms. So I would write this as 4W squared plus 36W, that came from 20W plus 16W, plus 80. And that would be my final expression. 4W squared plus 36W plus 80. Let's try number 30. Maybe I can draw my picture a little bit neater for number 30. This time we've got another photograph that's 14 by 20. Okay, so here's 14 and 20. And a mat around the outside, which remember is very similar to a frame. That again is W inches wide. So W here, W here, W here, and W here. If I want the total area, I need this total length and this total width. So this length here would be 20 from here to here, plus a W here and a W here. So this would be 20 plus 2W over here along the side, this length from here to here is 14, plus a W here and a W here. So that would be 14 plus 2W. And then I'm going to take those two expressions and multiply them together. So I would write 20 plus 2W. By the way, the order doesn't matter. If you'd written 14 plus 2W first, that would be totally okay. Okay? And now I'm going to multiply those. 20 times 14, let's see, 14 times 2 is 28, so that'll be 280. Outside, 20 times 2W would be 40W. Inside, 2W times 14 is 28W. And last, 2W times 2W gives you 4W squared. Okay? Again, when I write my final answer, I'm going to start with the 4W squared plus, I'm going to add my middle terms, and that gives me 68W, and then plus 280 at the end. So again, oh goodness, I'm sorry. Again, just in case you can't read that, final answer should be 4W squared plus 68W plus 280. Okay, let's take a look at 31 and 32. Converting to standard form. This is a different type of standard form than what we talked about earlier. Earlier we talked about linear equations in their standard form. Now we're talking about quadratic equations, and that works just a little bit differently. Standard form of a quadratic equation is simply, all that really means is to take everything and simplify it as best you can and get everything together on one side. So the first thing I would do here is, if I'm following order of operations, I would square this. Okay, I would take this x minus 1 and square it. And remember, we talked about earlier that when I do that, really what I'm doing is this, x minus 1 times x minus 1. And for now, I'm just going to let this 3 hang out on the outside here. And I guess just so I don't lose track of anything, I'll keep this y plus 2 over here. Okay. I would still start by multiplying these two things together. Again, I'm doing that with FOIL. So I would have y plus 2 equals 3. Notice all of that stays exactly the same. When I multiply this together, x times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. And negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Don't forget that that's really a positive 1. Okay? Now I can, just like before, I can go ahead and add these two terms in the middle together. So that'll give me y plus 2 equals 3, parentheses x squared minus 2x, because negative 1x and negative 1x makes negative 2x, plus 1. And now that I've got those parentheses all simplified, now I can work with this 3. And I'm going to take that 3 now and distribute it to everything inside the parentheses. So I'm going to take everything here and multiply by 3. So I'll have y plus 2 equals 3x squared minus 6x plus 3. Okay, and again, I just took everything in the parentheses and multiplied by the 3. And the very last thing to do if I want this y by itself is to subtract a 2 from either side. And that will leave my final answer as y equals 3x squared minus 6x plus 1. Okay, and that would be your final answer. That standard form of a quadratic. Okay, let's look at the next one. The next one is very similar. It's asking you to convert this one to standard form. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. I'll leave the first half of the equation alone. So y plus 1 equals negative, but I am going to expand this based on that square. So I'll take x plus 3 and write it out twice. Remember, you don't want to distribute this number until after you've done the squaring. Okay, and that number there, by the way, it looks like just a negative sign. It's really a negative 1. Okay, that might be more helpful to think of it that way. Now let's take these two and FOIL them. So y plus 1 equals negative 1. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times 3 is 9. Okay. Now let's combine that stuff in there. I'm just going to draw a line here so that we can keep this straight. So this would be y plus 1 equals negative 1. Oh boy, I've got a crying baby on my hands. X squared plus 6x plus 9. Okay. Now I'll take that negative 1 and distribute it. That'll give me y plus 1 equals negative x squared minus 6x minus 9. And then I'll subtract the 1 from either side, leaving me with y equals negative x squared minus 6x, and negative 9 minus 1 is negative 10. So final answer there, y equals negative x squared minus 6x minus 10. Okay, let's jump through 33 and 34 quickly so I can get to my formerly napping baby. And it's asking for a linear inequality. Okay, a linear inequality, and I'm just going to section this off here as best I can. Okay, a linear inequality looks like this. It looks similar to the y equals mx plus b. Okay, we are just going to change each piece of that to fit the inequality that we have in front of us. So we're still going to start with y, but instead of equals, we need to do either a greater than or less than, because this is asking for an inequality. Now based on this graph, and hopefully this came out okay in your copy, it's a little bit light, but our shading is down below the line. So since it's below the line, that would be a less than. And then this is a solid line. It's not dotted, it's solid, meaning that we want to include this line in our answer. So that means it would be less than or equal to. The m represents our slope. So to find the slope, I'm going to pick any 2 points on this line, and I'm going to pick maybe this one and this one. And I'm going to calculate rise over run. To get from this point to this point, I go down 2, which is like a negative 2 because I'm going down. And then I go to the right 1, which is like a positive 1. So my slope would be negative 2 over positive 1, which is really just negative 2. Now if you wrote it as negative 2 over 1, that would be okay too. Leave the x in there, plus, and then b represents the y-intercept. The y-intercept is this point right here, where it crosses the y-axis. And in this case, that y-intercept is 4. So our linear inequality is y is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 4. Okay, let's try that same method for number 34. Start with y equals mx plus b. And I really recommend you writing this out to begin with. Write out y equals mx plus b and then fill in your pieces. Okay, just like I'm demonstrating here. So still start with y. We need to decide greater than or less than. And when I look at this inequality, it looks again like I'm shaded underneath the line. Remember that with linear inequalities, you're talking about above the line and below the line, not left and right. So below the line would be less than. Now this time, and you may not be able to see it on the video, but hopefully you can see it on your own packet, this is a dotted line, which means I don't want to include the line itself in my answer, so I will not use an equal bar there. Okay, I'm just going to leave it as y is less than. Now my slope, looks like they have 2 points highlighted for us, so I'll go ahead and use those points, but just so you know, you don't necessarily have to use points that are highlighted on your line. You can pick any points you want. Okay, if I need to get from this point to this point, I'm going to go down 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like I went down 5, so that'd be a negative 5. And then I went to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's positive 5. So my slope is negative 5 over 5, and negative 5 over 5, when you divide that out, comes out to just be negative 1. Okay, so my slope is negative 1. Again, if you left it as negative 5 over 5, that would be correct. However, keep in mind that this will be a multiple choice question. So you'll have to know that if you get an answer like this and the answer is written like this, that those are the same thing. Okay, and then I need my y-intercept. And it looks to me like my y-intercept is right here at positive 1. So my final answer would be y is less than negative 1x plus 1. Okay, that does it for this page. I think we just have one more to go. Nope, just kidding, 2 more to go. But I will be back shortly with those problems.